At the party, my wife ignored me and said, "Today we're not married. I want to feel desirable for once. Don't bother me." Her best friend grabbed my hand and said, "Come on. You need to see this with your own eyes. After that, you'll run from your wife forever." My name's Michael Carter, and in that instant the bass from the rooftop speakers felt like a second heartbeat hammering in my throat. Ashley, my wife, my personal hurricane, was already drifting toward the VIP stairs, the glitter on her dress catching every light like she wanted the whole city to applaud. She didn't even glance back. Ashley could be charming in public and cruel in private, but tonight she was cruel in 4K. "Mike," Brittany hissed, nails digging into my palm. "No more blinders. Time to look." There was a sudden smash. Someone dropped a champagne flute, and the room hiccuped. The DJ killed the track mid-chorus, the crowd groaned, and then the music returned twice as loud. I lost sight of Ashley for a second in a burst of confetti that the event planner, a guy named Kevin with a too-white smile, launched across the dance floor like he was baptizing us in glitter. Brittany tugged, weaving me through sequined strangers. I saw familiar faces. Tyler from Ashley's office, a smirk already drunk into place. Linda, the venue manager, counting tips with a frown. Marcus from security, arms crossed like a Roman statue. All of them orbiting the same star. Ashley, queen of the night, empress of my humiliation. "She told me you were clingy," Brittany said, jaw tight. "Said you were cramping her vibe." "Mike, I've covered for her. I shouldn't have. I'm done." A text buzzed in my pocket. From Ashley, "Don't be jealous tonight. Try having fun with Jason and Emily." My sister Emily and our neighbor Jason were somewhere by the bar, oblivious. Ashley loved group photos and private knives. We hit the hallway to the VIP lounge. The air changed, cooler, quieter, the bass a distant storm. Marcus spotted us. "Yo, Mike," he said, dropping the professional tone for the guy he'd played pickup with. "You good?" "Not really," I said. Brittany cut in. "He's going up." Marcus opened his mouth to protest, then saw the look on my face and simply stepped aside. 2 minutes, he muttered. "No scenes. Promise." I lied. At the top of the stairs, the lounge smelled like spilled bourbon and fake coconut. I could see the skyline through a glass wall, the city glittering like a jewelry case. A private booth curtained in smoky black fabric pulsed with a dim, warm light. From behind it, a laugh I knew by muscle memory. Ashley's. Not her polite brunch laugh. Not her family dinner laugh. This was the one she saved for when she was getting exactly what she wanted. Brittany's grip tightened. "That's them." "Them who?" I asked, but my mouth already knew the name. Brandon. Brandon Pierce. Office golden boy. Gym shoulders. A cologne that announced itself 5 seconds before he entered the room. I'd shaken his hand at the holiday party. He'd called me bro. People like Brandon always say bro right before they borrow your life. "Mike," Brittany whispered. I told her to stop. She said you were boring. She said marriage was like a sweater she could take off whenever she wanted. Her voice trembled with angry guilt. "She's a BTCH for this." Someone barreled into me from behind. Tyler, drunk, laughing, spilling red wine down my shirt like a blood oath. "My bad, man." He slurred, then pivoted and vanished. Sudden event, sudden stain, and suddenly I could smell metal. Adrenaline tastes like pennies. From the booth, a hushed murmur, the soft thunk of someone bumping into the low table. A belt buckle jangled. My hands started shaking. Images fired across my brain like a bad slideshow. Ashley's lies stacked in tidy rows. Late nights finishing a pitch. The way she flipped her phone face down. The new lingerie she said was for me, but never wore when we were together. The way she'd pull away when I reached for her, saying she was tired, and then post a 1 a.m. boomerang with Brandon's hand just barely in frame. How had I missed it? Because love hands you a blindfold and calls it loyalty. The fire alarm chirped once. Glitchy, like it thought about saving me and changed its mind. 2 security radios crackled near the stairs. A burst of static and someone saying, "Copy." The curtain stirred. A heel slipped on the parquet with a high, frantic squeak. I moved. I didn't plan it. My body had decided before my brain filed the paperwork. I swept the curtain aside. What I saw wasn't a movie scene scandal, no dramatic spotlight on tangled limbs. It was uglier, smaller, realer. Ashley's lipstick was smeared into a half moon. Brandon's shirt was open, his tie hanging like a defeated flag. Ashley's dress was rucked up, a promise of more and a confirmation of enough. They weren't in a full-blown hook pee, not yet, but they were halfway down the on-ramp and accelerating. Her laugh collapsed into a gasp. Brandon's eyes bulged in startled dear fear. "Mike," she said, and her mouth twisted into something like annoyance before she painted on shock. "What are you doing here?" As if it wasn't our party. As if I'd crashed her life instead of paying for it. Brittany let out a bitter little sound. "Told you," she said to me, and then to Ashley. "You told me he was cool with an open thing. You lied to me, too." Ashley's face hardened. She looked right past my bleeding shirt, past Brittany's betrayal, straight to control. "Everyone relax," she snapped, like a manager quelling a retail riot. "It's not what it looks like." "What does it look like?" I heard my own voice and barely recognized it. Calm, almost curious, like a trainer asking a lion if this is a trick or dinner. "It looks like two adults having a conversation," Ashley said, chin high. "If I wanted to find intimacy, I wouldn't do it here." The word came out with a smirk. The contempt was an aftershave. Brandon, to his credit, tried to help. "Bro, Mike." I was just consoling her. He gestured at her dress, at the room, at the entire concept of gravity. "You know how it is." A confetti cannon went off downstairs again. Idiot timing, and the ceiling glittered. Marcus appeared in the doorway, evaluating the scene like a bomb tech. Brittany folded her arms. My phone shook in my hand. Emily was calling. I declined the call without looking down. Ashley's eyes climbed my face and arrived at the stain on my shirt. She actually smiled. "You spilled," she said. "You should be more careful." That was the moment the floor tipped. Not the almost hook pee, not the lies, not even the audacity. It was the smile. The way she turned my hurt into a punchline told me who she'd been all along. A world-class BTCH in a borrowed halo. "2 minutes are up," Marcus said quietly behind me. "Make them count," Brittany whispered. I did something I never do. I stepped closer, close enough to see the tiny scar under Ashley's left eye from a childhood fall she told me about on our third date, back when truth smelled like cinnamon rolls and not smoke. "Say you're sorry," I said, not a threat, a test. Ashley's answer was a soft, disdainful laugh that landed on my face and dried there like paint. And that, God help me, was the last second of the old story. Brittany's whisper still echoed. "Make them count." When the old story snapped and the new one started taking notes, I stepped back from the booth, from Ashley's paint-dry laugh, and the room lurched like a fairy hitting wake. A power flicker strobed the lounge. For a heartbeat, I saw everything in freeze frame. Brandon's guilty hands, Ashley's lifted chin, my own reflection in the glass. Some guy who'd trained for marathons but not for this. Then 3 sudden things happened in a row. First, the actual fire alarm wailed for real. Not a chirp. An air raid howl that turned conversations into flinches. Sprinklers sneezed once, thought better of it, and stopped, leaving the ceiling freckled with impending rain. Second, Brandon lunged for his jacket and knocked over the lowball tumblers. Bourbon avalanched across the table, over Ashley's clutch onto the floor. He slipped, windmilled, and caught himself on the edge of the booth, red-faced and exposed in a way the undone buttons never managed. Third, my phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. A single link and the line, "You deserve to know." N. I should have ignored it. I tapped. A hidden photo album opened, timestamp screenshots, bar receipts, rideshare logs, and mirror selfies cropped at angles that said everything without showing too much. Brandon's watch appeared twice. Ashley's manicure, unmistakable, appeared more than twice. Captions in her handwriting, "Late pitch meeting winking face." Spin class ran over, "Don't wait up." N. Was Noah. The bartender downstairs with the quiet eyes who'd once told me, "You're good people, Mike." He'd seen more than the drinks. "Mike." Brittany tried to read my face. I turned the screen toward her. She winced like I'd flashed a surgical light. "That's weeks," she said. "Maybe months." It hit me like a body memory. The Tuesday she came home smelling like cedar and a cologne I didn't own. The Thursday she said the gym was too crowded and showered before she'd even said hello. The new underwear tags I found in the trash with a receipt from a boutique on Fairfax, paid cash. I remembered asking, clumsy, "Hey, everything good?" And her rolling her eyes, saying, "Don't be dramatic, Michael. Intimacy isn't a punch card." Downstairs, the DJ killed the track again and shouted something about a false alarm. Upstairs, the air thinned, like the lounge was at altitude. Marcus hovered at the doorway, eyes asking if he had to break this up. "Give me a minute," I told him. He nodded, thumb on his radio, ready to conjure order if the room devolved. Ashley tried a tone I recognized from when she talked to waiters who brought the wrong garnish. "Michael, you're embarrassing yourself. We were talking. If I wanted a hookup, I could do better than a half-lit booth at our own party." "Cool," I said, voice calm and far away, like it was crossing a cold river to reach my mouth. Then explain the Fairfax boutique, the Uber to the Delano, the room service charge at 1:17 a.m., and the calendar invite titled Yoga that lasted 2 hours in a hotel that doesn't have a studio. Brandon swallowed. Ashley didn't blink. "You've been snooping?" she said, offense flaring like perfume. "That's controlling." Brittany stepped in. "No, that's connecting dots you through like confetti." Another burst of chaos downstairs. Someone knocked a speaker. Bass hiccuped. A chorus of "Whoa!" drifted up. As if on cue, Emily texted, "Where are you?" Jason saw Ashley go upstairs with that Brandon guy. I typed back, "With her. Don't come up." A second later, Jason sent a photo from the stairwell. Ash and Brandon entering the lounge, time-stamped. Proof on proof, as if the universe wanted a paper trail. I remembered the first lie that had felt like a pebble in my shoe. A Saturday night girls' dinner that ended with Ashley stumbling home near dawn, glitter in her hair and a new laugh in her throat. I remembered kissing her forehead and telling myself love was patience. I remembered how often patience looks exactly like denial when you squint. "Michael," Ashley said, softer now, spinning a tale, "I've been unhappy. You're predictable. I needed to feel alive." Brandon listens. She reached for me with the same hand that had just been smoothing Brandon's shirt. "We can talk about boundaries. Maybe an open arrangement. Lots of couples do that." Brittany made a sound like a snapped twig. Brandon studied the floor. I stared at her hand and saw a map of every place it had been without me. Discovery, I thought, the word clicking into place like a file tab, not just catching them half undone in a booth. Discovering who I'd been with this whole time. A woman who turned the truth into origami and then set it on fire for the glow. "Okay," I said, pocketing the phone, the album, the timeline. "Now I know." The lounge air was heavy with bourbon and perfume, and my throat felt raw though I hadn't shouted yet. I'd expected fury to erupt like a pipe bursting. Instead, what came was something colder, sharper, like glass under skin. Ashley's hand still floated in the space between us, waiting for me to take it. I didn't. "You're pathetic," I said quietly. My own voice startled me. It sounded measured, deliberate, not like the chaos inside my chest. "You stood there downstairs and told me, 'We're not married tonight.' Now you're here, half undressed with him, and still trying to spin me a bedtime story. Do you even hear yourself?" Ashley's eyes narrowed, the way they did when she negotiated discounts at boutiques. Hard, focused, ready to win. "I didn't say that to hurt you," she shot back. "I said it because I've been suffocating. You never see me anymore." "Never see you?" I laughed, a jagged sound. "Ashley, you're the center of every room you walk into. I've built our lives around you. I've defended you when friends whispered you were reckless. I've excused the late nights, the phone turned face down, the lies so thin you didn't even bother dressing them up." Brandon shifted, muttering, "Maybe I should go." Sit down, I snapped, pointing at him without looking. He froze. Marcus at the doorway leaned in but stayed silent, like a referee letting the fight play out. Ashley crossed her arms, defiant. So what now, Michael? You want me to grovel? Cry? Admit I had a fling and beg forgiveness? You're too proud for forgiveness anyway. You just want a villain. Congratulations, I said. You auditioned and got the part. Her lips curled, a half smile soaked in venom. Don't act like you're some saint. You've been dull for years. Predictable. All routine. Dinner, TV, bed. I wanted to feel alive, not like I was signing up for early retirement at 32. Brandon makes me feel noticed. The word hit me like an elbow to the ribs. Noticed. As if my loyalty, my work, my quiet sacrifices were invisible ink. As if I'd been background noise in my own marriage. Brittany broke her silence then, stepping forward. Ashley, stop. You're not just restless, you're cruel. I've covered for you, lied for you, watched Michael defend you while you laughed behind his back. You don't get to rewrite this as his fault. Ashley's eyes flashed at her best friend like daggers. Stay out of this. You've always been jealous. Jealous? Brittany scoffed. Of what? Watching you burn down the only decent man you'll ever have. The lounge snapped silent except for the thump of bass from below. My heart felt like a fist punching inside my chest. I stepped closer to Ashley, not to touch her, but to make sure she saw the finality in my face. You lied. You cheated. You mocked me, I said. And the worst part? You don't even regret it. You just regret being caught. Her smirk faltered for the first time. Brandon exhaled, relief spilling across his features like he thought the storm had passed. It hadn't, because I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The moment her smirk faltered, something inside me cracked open. Not in anger, that had already burned hot and passed, but in a wave of grief so heavy it nearly folded me in half. For 10 years I'd built my world around Ashley. 10 years of anniversaries, inside jokes, vacations that I thought were memories carved in stone. And now, standing in that lounge with Brandon fumbling for his jacket and Ashley glaring like I was the problem, all those years looked like chalk on pavement. Bright for a moment, washed away in one storm. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. The pain was too sharp for theatrics. Instead, my body betrayed me. Hands trembling, jaw locked, breath catching in my throat. The room blurred, voices became echoes. For a terrifying second, I thought I might faint. Ashley noticed. Of course she did. See? She said, her tone almost mocking. You're weak. This is why I needed more. You can't handle me. Weak. The word slammed harder than any admission of betrayal. I looked at her, really looked at her. Not the woman I'd married, not the charming smile my parents adored, but this stranger who used my wounds as punchlines. Brittany grabbed my arm, steadying me. Don't listen, she whispered. This isn't about you. This is who she's been. I swallowed, trying to anchor myself, but the tide kept rising. My mind flashed to all the little lies I'd forgiven. The late-night strategy sessions. The mysterious weekend yoga retreats. The lipstick stains on glasses that weren't hers. My chest ached with the realization that betrayal hadn't started tonight. It had been a long, slow erosion while I smiled through it. Suddenly, a crash downstairs. Glass shattering, someone screaming. For a heartbeat, I wanted to run toward it. Any distraction to escape the knife twisting in my ribs. But Marcus' radio buzzed, and he barked into it. Handled. Stay focused. He was guarding me, not the party. That hit harder than I expected. I sat on the edge of the booth Brandon had just vacated. The bourbon-soaked leather reeked, but I needed to sit before my knees gave out. Brandon muttered something like, "Sorry, man," and bolted. Coward. Ashley stayed, arms crossed, tapping one heel like this was an inconvenience. "So what now?" she asked, bored. "You going to cry? Or storm out so everyone downstairs can watch you play the victim?" Her cruelty was a hammer, but strangely, with each strike, the numbness lifted. My grief reshaped itself into clarity. For the first time, I wasn't clinging to who I thought she was. I was seeing who she really was, and it wasn't someone I could ever trust again. Tears stung my eyes anyway, hot and humiliating, but I let them come. I loved you, I said, voice raw. I gave you everything, and you laughed at me for it. Ashley rolled her eyes. Spare me the speech. But Brittany's face hardened. No, she said. Let him speak. You owe him that much. Ashley scoffed, but I didn't care. For the first time tonight, I felt something shift. Pain was still ripping me apart, but beneath it, something solid was beginning to form. The faint outline of resolve that I didn't leave right away. That would have been too easy, too clean, like ripping off a bandage. Instead, I sat there on the bourbon-soaked booth while Ashley stood over me, arms crossed, daring me to flinch. Every second dragged across my nerves like barbed wire. The question pulsed in my head. What now? Divorce? Forgiveness? Rage? Silence? My mind cycled through each option like a broken carousel. None of them landing, all of them making me sick. Brittany finally broke the standoff. Michael, you don't need to decide tonight, but you do need to stop letting her control the script. She looked straight at Ashley when she said it. Ashley smirked. Oh, please. He's not going anywhere. He's too invested. Mortgage, shared friends, family holidays. He'll cry, he'll sulk, and then he'll crawl back because he can't imagine life without me. The words were poison, but also clarity. Because in that single arrogant monologue, Ashley told me exactly who she believed I was: weak, dependent, predictable. And the truth? For years, she'd been right. I had been predictable. I'd covered her lies, made excuses, convinced myself my loyalty was strength instead of blindness. But the man sitting in that booth now wasn't the same man who'd kissed her goodnight a week ago. Something had broken, and in the breaking, something else had woken up. I stood. My shirt was still stained from Tyler's spill, my eyes still burning, but I felt taller than I had in years. You're wrong, I said. My voice didn't waver. I can imagine life without you, and it looks better than this circus. Her smirk slipped, just a fraction, but enough. For the first time that night, Ashley looked uncertain. Brittany nodded, almost proud. Good. That's the start. Suddenly, the door to the lounge banged open. Emily rushed in, Jason at her heels. Both had faces tight with worry. Mike, what's happening? Emily asked. Then her eyes darted to Ashley, to the half-undone dress, to the silence in the room. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God, Ashley groaned. Really? Do we need the whole family here for this performance? Emily's shock hardened into rage. Performance? You humiliate my brother in public at his own party, and you're acting like he's the problem? You're disgusting, Jason muttered. Let's get him out of here. And that was my decision moment. I could stay and argue, drown in explanations, let Ashley drag me through another hour of poison. Or I could leave, tonight, right now, with my dignity intact and the first step toward freedom. I looked at Ashley one last time. We're done, I said simply. No therapy, no open marriage, no second chances. Done. Her laugh rang out, brittle and forced. You'll regret this, she snapped. Maybe. But regret already had me by the throat. It couldn't get worse. I turned, walked past Marcus, past the pulsing music downstairs, and out into the night. Each step felt lighter, sharper, clearer. Decisions made. The marriage was over. The night air hit me like a slap, cold, sharp, alive. I didn't realize how suffocating the lounge had been until I stepped outside. The city hummed with neon and car horns, strangers laughing in the distance, all of it cruelly normal. My marriage had just shattered, and the world had the audacity to keep spinning. Emily grabbed my arm, worry etched into her face. Mike, you okay? I nodded, though it was a lie. Inside, I was a mess of splintered glass. Every breath felt jagged. My body wanted to collapse on the curb, but my pride dragged me forward. Jason hailed an Uber, his eyes darting back toward the venue like Ashley might come storming out with claws ready. Brittany slipped out moments later, her heels clicking fast against the concrete. She's still upstairs, cursing your name, she said. Don't look back. I couldn't. In the car, silence suffocated us. Emily tried to speak. Mike, we'll figure this out. But my throat closed. I pressed my forehead to the window, watching the city smear by. Every streetlight felt like an interrogation lamp. My reflection looked like a stranger. Red eyes, stained shirt, hollowed cheeks. When we reached my place, the apartment felt foreign. The couch where Ashley and I had binged shows. The kitchen where she'd leaned against the counter, sipping wine and texting co-workers. The bedroom we'd shared. It all looked staged, like props from a play I'd just been fired from. I collapsed onto the couch, hands over my face. The silence roared louder than the party had. Suddenly, anger surged, a violent, physical need to do something. I grabbed a photo frame from the shelf, our wedding picture. Ashley smiling like she'd won the world. Me grinning like I had no idea I'd signed up to be a punchline. My hand shook. Then I hurled it against the wall. The glass shattered, scattering across the hardwood like frozen confetti. Emily flinched but didn't stop me. Jason muttered, "Let it out, man." I wanted to scream, but the scream stuck. Instead, tears came. Heavy, hot, humiliating. 10 years of love, of lies, of patience turned to ash. I cried for the man who'd believed her stories. For the nights I'd kissed her forehead, thinking I was lucky. For the future I'd pictured, now buried under broken glass. When the tears slowed, Brittany sat beside me. "Mike, listen," she said, her voice low. "Ashley isn't going to stop. Tomorrow she'll call. She'll twist it. She'll make you doubt yourself. Promise me you won't pick up." I swallowed hard. "I don't know if I'm strong enough." "You are," she insisted, "because you finally saw her." I looked at the shards of our wedding photo on the floor. The decision was made, but the ache was only beginning. I knew the nights ahead would be long, full of ghosts and questions. But under the rubble of grief, a seed of something else pressed upward. Resolve, fragile but real. Ashley had broken me, but maybe, just maybe, she'd also set me free. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the blinds like a cruel spotlight. My head throbbed from equal parts whiskey and heartbreak. For a second, in that blurry half-sleep, I forgot. Then my eyes landed on the shattered wedding photo still lying in pieces across the floor. Memory returned like a sucker punch. Ashley, Brandon, the booth, the smirk, the laugh, the lies. I dragged myself up, poured black coffee into a chipped mug, and opened my laptop. The cursor blinked on a blank email draft, waiting for me to write to a divorce attorney. Just typing "divorce lawyer" near me into the search bar felt like pushing a boulder uphill. But it was the first real step toward cutting the cord. Before I could click send, my phone lit up. Ashley. I stared at the screen, rage and temptation wrestling in my chest. Brittany's warning echoed. "Tomorrow she'll call. She'll twist it. She'll make you doubt yourself." I let it ring out. Then came the text, "We need to talk. You overreacted. Call me." Overreacted. The gall of it almost made me laugh. My hands shook, but this time not from weakness. Anger was fuel now. I blocked her number before I could change my mind. 2 hours later, the storm hit. Ashley switched tactics. Emails long and syrupy. I was drunk. "Brandon means nothing. You're the love of my life." Then harsher ones minutes later. "You're pathetic if you think anyone else will want you." Then back again. "Please, let's try therapy." The pendulum swings of a manipulator. I didn't reply, but she didn't stop. By evening, she'd called my office line, left voicemails crying about marital misunderstandings. She posted a photo on Instagram. Her in our kitchen, holding a wine glass, captioned, "Sometimes love just needs forgiveness." She wanted to paint the story before I could. That was the moment I knew. Ashley wasn't just a liar. She was a performer. And she'd rather torch my reputation than face her own reflection. I called Emily. "I need you to help me pack a bag," I said. "I can't stay here." Not with her pulling strings. That night, I left the apartment. Just a duffel, clothes, documents, my running shoes. Everything else felt tainted. Emily hugged me at her door and whispered, "You're stronger than you think." I didn't feel strong, but walking into her spare room felt like a small act of survival. The next week blurred into paperwork and silence. A lawyer named Harris laid out the process. Assets, accounts, signatures. Cold, clinical, necessary. Each document I signed felt like severing a vein, but also like building a lifeboat plank by plank. Ashley tried new tricks, showing up at my office, sending mutual friends to plead her case, even mailing a handwritten letter quoting vows. But every attempt only sharpened my resolve. The woman I'd married was gone. Maybe she'd never been real. And yet, under the grief, I felt something flicker. Freedom. Fragile, flickering, but there. For the first time in years, the future wasn't Ashley's script. It was mine. Weeks passed, though time moved strangely in the aftermath. Some days felt like a blur of paperwork and restless nights. Others stretched endlessly, each hour heavy with memories I hadn't chosen but couldn't yet escape. At first, I kept expecting Ashley to kick down the door of my new life. Her shadow loomed even in silence. Every unknown number that called, every knock at the door, my chest clenched. But slowly, her presence faded into background noise, like static on a broken radio. Annoying, but no longer commanding the room. Divorce papers were filed, served, processed. Friends picked sides. Some avoided me altogether, unsure how to stand in the wreckage. Others, like Brittany, checked in daily, determined to remind me I wasn't alone. And Emily, my sister, became my anchor. Her steady voice, her spare room, her quiet understanding pulled me back each time the grief tried to drown me. One evening, after a long run that left my lungs burning and my legs trembling, I collapsed on a park bench. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt alive. Not happy, not healed, but alive. The kind of alive that didn't depend on Ashley's approval, her smile, her attention. A kind of alive I had forgotten I could feel. I looked around. Kids chasing each other on the grass, a couple holding hands, an old man feeding pigeons. Life carried on, messy and ordinary and real. And I realized something I should have known all along. My worth had never depended on Ashley. She'd convinced me it did, but the truth was simpler. I had always been enough. I just hadn't believed it. The betrayal scarred me, no doubt. Nights still came when I woke up sweating, replaying her smirk, her laugh, her voice calling me weak. But each time I answered back in my head, no, you were wrong. Weakness is staying in chains. Strength is breaking them. If there's anything I've learned from this nightmare, it's this: betrayal doesn't define you. What defines you is how you respond. Do you crawl back to the person who cut you, or do you stand, bleeding but unbroken, and walk into the unknown? I chose the unknown, and it terrifies me, but it also excites me. To anyone who finds themselves where I was, sitting in a booth while the truth cracks open in front of you, listen closely. Don't ignore the signs, don't swallow the lies just because they're easier to digest. And when the mask finally slips, when the truth burns your world down, let it. Sometimes the fire is the only way to see clearly. Ashley wanted me to regret leaving, but regret belongs to her now. As for me, I'm moving forward. Step by step, bruise by bruise, I'm building something new. Not perfect, not painless, but mine. And that's more than enough.